I keep telling people the hardest part isn't the PR. It's picking the right project in the first place. Half the battle is just not wandering into some abandoned repo with 3 stars and a readme from 2017.
That's painfully true. I've done that. You feel heroic for about 10 minutes, then you realize the maintainer's last commit was before I forgot my own password.
Exactly. I usually tell folks to look for active maintainers, recent issues, and whether the project actually wants help. If every issue is labeled good first issue, but nobody responds for 2 weeks, that's a smell.
Or if all the good first issues are actually rewrite half the architecture, which is a fun little prank.
Right. When? And the best fit is often something you already use. If you depend on it, you understand the pain points, and you're more likely to stick with it instead of disappearing after a Saturday.
That helps. Also, if the contribution docs are readable, that's a good sign. If the guide starts with the fork, then sync the upstream mirror, I lose interest.
I'm torn on size though. Small projects can be more approachable, but bigger ones have clearer processes. I guess it depends on whether you want speed or mentorship.
Probably both, which is classic engineer greed.
Fair. Also, I'd avoid choosing just by popularity. A shiny project can be a crowd, but a less flashy one might actually need you. And need matters.
Need matters more than clout. That's annoyingly wise.
I know. I hate that it's true. Once you've picked the project, the next trick is finding the right first task without ending up in something labeled easy that secretly requires divine intervention.
Most beginner-friendly stuff is not actually beginner-friendly. It's more like, we won't judge you too hard while you untangle this.
Exactly. I look for issues with clear reproduction steps, expected behavior, and at least some discussion from maintainers. If the issue body is vague, that's usually a sign you'll spend more time guessing than coding.
I also check whether someone already asked questions in the thread. If the maintainer answers with real detail, that's promising. If it's just, PR's welcome, that's not guidance, that's a shrug in text form.
Good point. Labels help, but I don't trust labels alone. Good first issue plus no context is just decorative paint.
And sometimes the best beginner task is documentation or tests. Less glamorous, but you learn the codebase faster, and you're less likely to break the thing everyone depends on.
I actually like that route. A tiny test fix can teach you more about the project than a week of reading the architecture docs, assuming the docs aren't already out of date, which they usually are.
That's the most software thing you've said all day.
Once you've got the task, the pull request is where people either make their life easier or accidentally create a second issue for the maintainer.
Mostly the second one. I've seen PRs that read like a mystery novel. No context, no screenshots, no explanation, just fixed it.
I always try to keep the PR description boring in the best way. What changed, why it changed, how I tested it, and any trade-offs. If there's a design choice, spell it out before someone has to ask in 3 different comments.
And keep the scope tight. If you fix the bug and also rename 7 files and refactor unrelated code, people start squinting at you.
Guilty as charged, occasionally. But small PRs are easier to review, merge, and revert if needed. Plus, if there's a reviewer, they can actually tell what you did without playing archaeology.
It helps to link the issue too. Saves everyone from hunting through the repo like they're looking for a missing sock.
Nice. And if something's unfinished, say so. Honest notes like, I didn't tackle edge case X, are better than pretending the PR is perfect.
That's probably the hardest part for some people. Pretending less is weirdly professional.
And then comes review, where everybody suddenly becomes a philosopher about a 3-line change.
Or a detective. Or a storm cloud. Depends on the comment.
As a contributor, I think the big rule is don't get defensive. Questions and corrections usually aren't personal, even when the wording is a little sharp around the edges.
True, though sometimes the wording is sharp enough to cut bread. Still, replying calmly helps. Good catch goes a long way.
Yeah, and if a reviewer asks for a change, make the next update easy to scan. Summarize what you changed in the reply so they don't have to hunt through the diff like it's a treasure map.
Maintainers have a part too. Specific feedback is better than vague, looks off. People can work with concrete notes.
Absolutely. I try to separate style nits from blocking issues. Otherwise, contributors spend energy polishing the wrong thing.
And if you're a maintainer, maybe don't vanish after asking for revisions. That's how PRS become folklore.
That one's fair. A review is a conversation, not a drive-by inspection.
Rarely feels like that when the thread gets long enough to need its own wine pairing.
Honestly, the same thing applies to issues too. The clearer you are, the less everyone has to guess, and the faster the project moves.
Which is a relief, because guessing in software usually turns into a meeting.
I like to tell people to include the problem, the expected result, the actual result, and anything relevant about the environment. If it's a bug, give steps to reproduce it. If it's a feature request, explain the use case, not just the wish.
And avoid writing a novel in the first line. Put the key point up front. Nobody wants to excavate 3 paragraphs to learn the app crashes on save.
Exactly. Clear subject lines help too. Crash when exporting KSV on empty dataset is useful. Help is not.
I've seen urgent on issues that were basically someone being annoyed. That label loses meaning fast.
Same with comments in discussions. Ask one question at a time, reference the specific line or behavior, and admit when you're unsure. It keeps the thread from turning into a pileup.
Being honest helps more than sounding clever. Which is inconvenient for some people.
Guilty, occasionally. But clarity is kind to everyone, especially the person who has to read your words at 11 p.m. with a deadline breathing down their neck.